Hey everyone, it's Dylan and Charlie from the Black Forest Wood Company. This week we're going to show you why we took a 9-foot wide Bastome walnut slab, cut it into 2-foot wide sections, and broke part of it in half. Okay, so what we're doing that you guys can't really see is we're tilting the slab back and we're putting a little round dowel about this long. Because if we, here you can kind of see it through there, if we get enough dowels on there, we can actually just roll the slab out instead of having to drag it.
A little bit of a tilt to it. It's leaning. Yeah, we'll stand on this side. Okay, keep it vertical. No, it was tilting about a foot.
Horizontal?
You still have to go forward.
A little more?
Yeah, that's what's on your there.
Okay. We gotta move this dowel again.
Okay. All right. I gotta come to this.
Okay, move the fiber.
Okay, so we need one card under there.
Check this out. It's all the shot. We're lifting down this massive walnut slab this morning.
Just want to put that card.
This will go back as far as I can go. Okay. Okay, lifting is over. Push that card forward. Hold on. What? Okay, should be good now.
That's probably fine.
I know. So we need some clamps. Let's not move it. We need to be able to clamp this so it can't twist over on it. Okay, forward. I'll try and avoid this big hole here. Now this wheel's going to go in it. Okay. Okay, I'm lifting a bit too.
Let's get, wait.
What?
Wait.
It's a heavy slide.
That's what the end.
Okay. Wait. Boy, this is twisted, crooked and see that end there?
Yeah, you still have to keep the engine better.
Good way to do that, actually. Yeah, so you actually only want to be like about a foot over from the end of that arm. Yeah, about right there. Yeah, about 12 inches. And I'm about here, and I think that should do. So for this table, we are using probably one of the largest Bastome walnut slabs, or any type of walnut for that matter, that we've ever had. This slab on the wide end is over 9 feet wide, which is kind of unheard of. Typically, a large walnut tree would be like anything 4 feet and over, which is very rare on its own. So to find something this big is quite a treat. And of course, this came from our good friends at GL Veneer. But we do have to cut it down into smaller pieces. The reason being is that the client wants a resin river table for this piece, which I know a lot of people get kind of upset when they see us cutting up these big slabs into small pieces. But I think you guys are going to understand why we've done it when you see the final layout and design of this piece. Also, one thing I should mention is this piece, because of its size, it didn't dry the flattest. It ended up getting pretty warped. So if we were to try and flatten this as one piece, we might be left with something under 2 inches for our thickness, which isn't optimal for such a big table. And by cutting it up into these smaller pieces, it actually allows us to yield more of that total thickness of the slab here. So we've ripped off our 2 ends that are going to be used for the main portion of the table on the outside edge to create the river down the center. And we're actually left with one offcut in the middle that has a live edge end. And we're going to use that to kind of cheat and extend the length of this table and get more usable wood out of it. Because we do need, I believe it's either 14 or 16 feet on this piece. And these slabs were just a little bit shy of that. So on the one side, we're using that extra live edge offcut from the middle, and on the other side, We actually broke the slab and were able to pull it farther to the end of the table, which allowed us to achieve our length. And it also allowed us to achieve more thickness because that end was quite warped.
Oh, I have no grip. Sorry. Good? Okay. Is there? Oh, all that stuff.
Oh my
God! I thought we tried to move the table. It's sad.
That goes here.
Other side, yeah.
Goodness.
Turn it. Yeah.
Want to keep a nice gap there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's got fit.
Ow, my belly.
Something else we did on this table that we're starting to do more often now is an opaque base layer. Originally, this client was just going to go with a tinted resin that was going to allow you to be able to see right through to the bottom of this table. But after we kind of did the drawing, showed him the leg placement, he did realize that some of the legs are going to be visible beneath the resin because we are doing 3 steel legs in this. So you'd see one on either end and then one in the center of the table. So to kind of avoid that, but still maintain the live edge character that's visible through the transparent resin, we pour about a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch thick opaque black base layer, and then we let that cure about halfway. The timing is pretty important on this. There's sort of 2 ways you can go about it. You let it cure halfway only for about 24 to 36 hours, and then you pour it while the resin is still actually slightly soft. Sort of your indicator for when you want to pour is if you can touch it with your finger and it doesn't stick, but it still leaves an impression, then you know you're good to pour your second layer. However, if it gets hard enough to where you could actually sand that bottom layer, you should do that because you need to scuff the surface up to form a mechanical bond if it has got that hard. If it hasn't gotten that hard, you don't need to worry about sanding, but if it has gotten to that point, you do. So you can see in the pour video that we did for this table, it did harden up past the point of being able to just pour the base layer directly over top. So we did some sanding. Another advantage of sanding the base layer as opposed to, let's say, just leaving it soft is if you get any particles of dust in your base layer, sanding it actually gives you an opportunity to get them out, which in our case we did. We have a dusty shop and solid black is a really hard color because it's going to show every single imperfection. So we sanded this layer and it gave us a really clean result in the final product. So one other thing that we had to do for this table that we unfortunately didn't get filmed, the boys didn't come grab us. We will film it the next time we have to do this, but we actually had to break this slab here on purpose because the piece was too warped for us to be able to get the thickness if we just left this whole thing whole. This end of the slab was kicked up almost like 2 inches. So if we would have just tried to flatten that, we'd be left with like 1 inch thick down on that end. So we made a relief cut in the bottom. We drove on top of this end with the forklift, put a piece of, like a big piece of wood right here for a point of leverage, and then we went down to the other end of the slab and jumped on the end pretty much until it snapped. And it actually makes for a pretty cool feature in the table. It ends up looking like a natural crack, and it saves us our thickness too. So that's why we broke this beautiful giant piece of wood. So that is going to be our video for the first half of this table. This particular collection of slabs, we still have a few more of them, are some of the most beautiful pieces we've ever worked with. It's actually from the same tree as the Joe Manganello table, and I guess this is also a good time to address what's been going on with his table. Essentially, his space isn't quite ready for the table yet. He thought it was going to be done a little bit sooner, but things ended up getting delayed. So we're going to be holding on to the table for probably another month or 2, and then we'll be going down to California to do the delivery. So everything is still happening. We've just got to wait for the space to be ready for the table. But I appreciate you guys watching our video this week. We will probably, I would say, in a month, we'll be doing the finished video for this table when we have the full delivery process and everything, so stay tuned for that. But we appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you next week.